Senator Pocock.
Thank you, Acting Deputy President. I move the motion.
Senator Pocock.
I bring this motion today to discuss the appalling state of our lobbying rules in Australia. Rules is in fact generous when you look at the setup that we have allowed to have in place when it comes to lobbying in Parliament House, in the People's House. Most Australians probably assume that we have decent lobbying laws. Yes, we have a lobbyist register, and I'll talk about that later, but we also have some 2,000 people who have sponsored passes, and we have no idea who they are. The Australian people have no idea who they are. Access is a very good thing. This is the People's House. There should be access, but Australians should know who is accessing their house. Recently, my office and I were speaking with a US barrister about the differences between our lobbying rules. And again, most Australians probably assume that we have equivalent or probably better lobbying rules than in the United States. But she was shocked and appalled. Although their system is far from perfect, in the US there are laws preventing the undue and unethical influence of private interests on people in Congress. What's more, there are criminal penalties for breaking those laws, which can involve jail time. In Australia, there are no laws. There is a code, which in reality is more of a guideline, and it doesn't even apply to the majority of lobbyists, just those that lobby on behalf of other companies, of professional lobbyists. It's clear to me that many people in this chamber just don't care about this. This has been in place for a long time, and we've seen no action from either side of politics. And when raising concerns with people in the relevant positions, I've been dismissed, like I'm trying to cause an issue about something that really isn't of importance. This does matter. This matters because influence over the decisions that we make in this place has a huge effect on people that we are here to represent, that we are here to make decisions that should be in their best interest. The first thing to note is that not all lobbyists are captured by the Code of Conduct. The Code only captures those lobbyists that lobby on behalf of other companies. And in my experience, these people are least likely to be an issue. Most people don't know it, but in-house lobbyists, most lobbyists, are not subject to the code. This means that we don't know who they are, we don't know where they're from, and we don't know what they're doing. They're not bound by any professional ethical standards and are completely free to wander the building to bump into MPs and senators. The insidious nature of this power cannot be overstated. When there is controversial legislation, it's not uncommon to see scores of in-house lobbyists lining the hallways seeking to influence the votes of parliamentarians. That's their job. But the community expects public scrutiny of who these lobbyists are and why they wield such power. Worse than that, in-house lobbyists are not even held to any ethical standard. And here's where it really breaks down. Under the code, a former staffer is prevented from lobbying on behalf of a company that they had policy responsibility for while they were in government. So if they were a staffer in the advisor in the communications minister's office, they couldn't go to lobby and then take Sportsbet on as a client. But nothing prevents them from just getting a job at Sportsbet as their in-house lobbyist. This is not an actual example, but I do have a long list of actual examples. This loophole is so far below any conceivable ethical standard. Our rules are so loose that we allow people who have worked in the government to go and advise companies on how to manipulate the government. This leads me to my second point, there are no deterrents or penalties for lobbyists who break the rules. Let's say a lobbyist seriously breaches the rules. The worst penalty that they can receive is a 3-month break from lobbying. Sit it out for a few months. Go and put your feet up. Work in the office. You just can't come into Parliament House. 90 days' time, you're back. You're back in business. That's not a bad outcome for a serious breach of a generally unenforced code. The Attorney General can enforce a more strict penalty, but none that would allow for a penalty that would act as any kind of effective deterrent. And last time I checked at estimates, no Attorney General had actually used that power. I challenge the average Australian to try and just get signed in and just wander the halls of this building to see an MP or a senator. It's not possible. But if you're a lobbyist, you run free in these halls. You can get into every corner of this building, lurk outside offices and hang out at Aussies or the Trough and orchestrate chance encounters with politicians and their staff. The community can't do this, and yet we have no idea who these people are. There is no requirement for any transparency over the use of these passes. 2,000 people roaming the halls. We have no idea who they are. One of the only things that we are signed up to and where we do have obligations is the UN Framework Convention on Tobacco Control, which expressly prohibits officials from engaging with big tobacco companies on matters of public health policy. And yet, because we have such a loose system, we know that they wander these halls. And I can't imagine they are here for a long black at the cafe. They are here to ensure the Parliament doesn't enact tougher rules on their products. I noticed that a tobacco bill was introduced into the House this week, so I expect we will be seeing even more of them in Parliament over the next few months. Australians want more transparency. They want more integrity from the government. Indeed, we've been promised it. We hear the talk of transparency and accountability, but when it comes to lobbying reforms, we're not hearing anything. And this is important. This is important for our democracy. I would urge the government to look into this area and to listen to Australians who are saying, we want that transparency. We want to know who is potentially influencing decisions. We're in a situation where most states and territories are far ahead of the Commonwealth in this regard. In New South Wales, there are ethical obligations that apply generally to all those who are lobbying government officials, not just third-party lobbyists. In Queensland, lobbying activities are disclosed publicly every fortnight. Here in the ACT, lobbying activities are also disclosed publicly so that the people of the ACT can see precisely which interests are trying to influence the government. It's not enough to talk about integrity, though we hear many talk a big game in that regard. It's time that we ensure that there is integrity in all corners of our parliamentary system. We need better lobbying rules. In fact, we need laws. Australians deserve better.